Hi everybody, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL, and today we're going to be talking about something that many of you who've done a lot of job searching have probably encountered, okay? So let's have a look. What is a AAA game? Sound familiar? In the video game industry, AAA, pronounced AAA, is a classification term used for games with the highest development budgets and levels of promotion. So far, it's way up there, right? It's a big deal. All right, a title considered to be AAA is therefore expected to be a high-quality game and to be among the year's best sellers. So basically, what the term AAA means, which is something you're probably all too familiar with, is that it's la creme de la creme standard for video games, right? The biggest games, the biggest budgets, the most popular games. You can think of games like Halo and World of Warcraft and Witcher 3 and and Skyrim and so on and so forth, right? The big honchos. And what you might not know, not having worked in the video game industry yet, or if you're new to the video game industry, or the entertainment industry as a whole, is AAA games make for a very small percentage of the games out there. It takes a lot for a company to be granted that kind of a budget to be able to work on the biggest games. Now, very often when you look at when you're looking at a AAA game, you're thinking to yourself, it's made with the best talent out there, right? The best artists, the best programmers, the best, the best directors, the best creative directors, the best producers. They all collaborate together to create the best games. What you don't realize is the number of people that go into making these games. A AAA game is not a product of a small team of people, which is what, realistically speaking, what most games consist of. They usually consist of a relatively small group of people, a relatively small team of people. But when it comes to a high-budget game like a AAA game, they hire larger teams with lots of talent, okay? And very often, furthermore, the talent that they grab for these types of games are people that have a ton of experience, right? People have been in the industry for the last, at least the last, 8 to 10 years, if not more, and they've delivered many of these types of games. But you got to ask yourself, this is where the big question comes in. How did they get that job in the first place? How did the first people who ever produced AAA games ever produce the first AAA game if they didn't have any experience in AAA games, because AAA games did not exist yet? Kind of a what came first, the chicken or the egg type of thing, right? That's where I come in, and that's where this talk comes in, essentially, okay? The people who produce these games are people who had the time and the resources and the entourage, the talent around them to be able to develop their skills to a level where they could start producing better and better games. Very often, a lot of the people that work on these AAA games are people that, remember, the video game industry is very young, okay? We haven't been around for that long. When I was a little kid, video games didn't exist. They didn't come out until I was probably around, they didn't really start to become a thing until I was probably around 8 to 10 years old, okay? That's when I remember like the Atari came out and the ColecoVision came out, and then we got the Nintendo and the Super NES and so on and so forth, right? But AAA games weren't a thing, okay? At least they weren't a mainstream term being used. So the people who got the experience needed to be able to produce what's considered a AAA game today are people that just have been around in the industry for longer. But they weren't AAA artists when this all started out. Now this term gets thrown around like hotcakes at a festival all the time. Everywhere you look for a job, you see looking for artist who's worked on at least 3 to 5 AAA titles. Who writes those? Who comes up with these articles? Who are generally in charge of writing up job postings to find talent? Okay, who? Well, most of the time, it's the HR department, right? The HR department are responsible for doing things like this. Are the HR department generally artists? Well, it's safe to say that at least 99% of HR people, as hardworking, as incredibly talented as they are, as selfless as many of them may be, are not artists, right? And as we know, the artistic growth and the artistic process and the technicalities behind being a skilled and professional level artist is a lot of work, right? It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of passion. It requires all of these things. Things that HR departments are completely oblivious to. But because they work in a video game company, they hear that buzzword getting passed around. And chances are the directors, the art directors, or whoever it is they're looking to hire, okay, threw that buzzword at them as well. But when you're actually in a studio, when you're actually working inside a studio, the only time you're ever going to hand-pick talent for a AAA game are exclusive people, like the Chris Medsons of a company, okay, that they hand-pick, and very often they really, there's a lot of politics that goes behind this kind of stuff. They hand-pick a talent, and they, like, I know, like, for instance, a good example here in Montreal is the whole Ubisoft EA thing that went on for years and years and years, right? And if an artist or a programmer or a game director actually was taken out of Ubisoft and started working at EA, it made the news, okay? This is a big deal kind of thing, okay? But this is a very, very, very small percentage of a huge talent pool of artists that work in the video game industry, all right? So what I want to do for you is actually shed a very realistic image of what this whole thing is about. Why? Because when you're somebody who's just fresh out of school, or you've only been working in the industry for about 2-3 years or 5 years, you haven't been working that long, the jobs you've gotten are working for little games, you know, little smaller budget games for smaller teams. Great games, don't get me wrong. I love a lot of small budget games are made by some of the most brilliant game designers out there and artists. But you haven't necessarily gotten your big break, right? So you go online, you know, you're looking for work or whatever the case might be, and you look, and everywhere you look, it's saying looking for somebody who's worked on at least 3 to 5 AAA games. Looking for somebody who's worked on AAA games, AAA games, AAA games, AAA games, AAA games. Okay, this shit gets thrown around all over the place. What I'm telling you is, ignore that. Literally ignore it. It's nothing but a buzzword, okay? I also refer to visual library as a bit of a buzzword. My definition of visual library is Google. That's a visual library. That's a physical visual library. A lot of people throw around the term, you know, having an advanced, you know, or a brilliant visual library all floating around your head as being some person who has perfect, like, flawless visual memory. You know, you have a photographic memory. You remember everything you've ever experienced for the last 25 years, and you can compile that all into a brilliant piece of artwork. Bullshit, okay? A visual library is called looking up tons of reference. That's what a visual library is. And the more reference you use, the more you learn about subjects, and the better you get at capturing them, okay? That is a visual library. Well, when it comes to AAA games, when they say AAA games, that's HR's way of saying we're looking for very talented artists, period. And we want to get the best that we can get, and that seems to be the buzzword for getting good talent, good quality artists out there, professional great artists. So, what does that do to you when you encounter all of these things? Well, what the term AAA does to the gross majority of artists looking for work is creates this big, thick, bulletproof glass ceiling on top of your head that you bunk can't get through, okay? You're sitting there thinking, well, they want somebody who's worked on AAA games, but if I don't get hired to work on a AAA game, how the hell can I ever put that on my CV? It's a bit of a catch-22. And my opinion is, and my very strong advice to you is, ignore that catch-22. It's doing nothing but misleading you. And I personally would prefer if they took that stupid term out of it in the first place, because it's alienating a lot of people, or at least making a lot of artists feel like they're alienated. So what do? How do you get those big jobs? How do you get into those big studios? You produce a AAA game. It's that simple. Oh, but you're saying, well, what the hell are you talking about? You're kind of contradicting yourself here. Okay? I'm not contradicting myself. Make a AAA game. Okay? Make a AAA game. Oh, but you mean how can I get into the studio? How can I work on a AAA game unless I have the talent? No. Forget what the studio wants. I'm saying you produce a AAA game. You don't need permission to produce your own AAA game, or at least AAA game quality art, right? And by the word AAA game quality art, I mean high quality art. Produce the artwork that studios who hire AAA artists are looking for, and if your artwork's good enough, you'll get the job. Listen, I worked as a director. I worked at EA, okay? And when I worked at EA, I almost never looked at the CV. If I did, oh, okay, yeah, he's got some years of experience. Flip, now let's look at the art. Because human beings in general, on a CV, bullshit about themselves. Or they don't necessarily bullshit, but they embellish the hell out of themselves, okay? And what I've noticed is the more skilled, the more experienced artists get, the shorter their CVs get. I've received CVs from artists that have only been working for 2 years, but they're 25 freaking pages long. Who's going to read that? Nobody's ever going to read that. Besides, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me any more than looking at a diploma matters to me. What do I look for when I'm hiring artists? I'm looking for great art that fits the studio, and I'm looking for a good personality, somebody who I feel I can work with, right? If I sit down for an interview, if I sit down and I'm interviewing somebody, I'm going to go, hey, how you doing? My name's Adam. I'm glad you could come and join us. Thanks for braving the traffic to get here to the interview, you know? And they say, thanks. And I go, so tell me about yourself. Tell me your experience, whatever generic stupid question you ask, you know, during an interview. I did drawings, went to school, you know? Well, try working with somebody like that, okay? Now, this isn't bashing on introverts. I know introverts, but I'm talking about somebody who's completely antisocial, right? If you're antisocial, I've got 2 great artists. One is a douche and one's perfectly nice to me. Well, I'm going to hire the nice guy. It's that simple, right? Because I know I'm going to have to work with this guy 5 days a week. It's a no-brainer, right? Good personality, great art. CV, not really important. Diploma, couldn't give a crap. When would I ever ask, did you bring your diploma to the interview, sir? You know, that sounds almost ridiculous coming out of my mouth, okay? When I look at an artist's artwork, I'm thinking of the project we need to hire for. I'm thinking of the caliber of artist that we're looking for. I'm looking at the type of art, the style of art that we're looking for. Is it something sci-fi? Is it something fantasy? Is it something grungy? Is it something steampunk? What is it? And I look at that person's art, and if I look to see if it's a fit. If it's a fit, welcome aboard, right? Confided you don't, pull a knife on me during the interview, your chances are pretty good that you're going to get the job. The art has to be up to par. So this whole AAA thing is complete nonsense. Okay, it really is complete nonsense, unless they're only hiring people that they want to be able to for bragging rights to stick on some article in GameFAQs or Gamasutra. Okay, it's the only time that ever matters to them, for bragging rights. But if you have AAA quality artwork in your portfolio, your chances of getting a job are going to be really good, right? So one of the things I recommend to you, and so one of the things, if you like, a perfect example is look at artists like Noah Bradley, look at artists like Tyler Edlin, look at artists like Chris Oatley, okay? They didn't wait to get permission to do a AAA game. They took on their own assignment, their own project, their own story. You know, if you've ever seen, go and check out, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and check out Tyler Edlin's Thunderfall online, okay? He's produced a plethora of artwork, a whole world of characters and environments that all live up to the AAA standard. But he didn't have to ask anybody's permission to do it. He did it himself. He took on that project himself. It's a very smart way of proving to them, well, that's what you're looking for. Here you get it. And that gets you into the door, okay? So as far as this whole AAA rumor running around, it's just fluff. Okay, and if you want to get those kind of jobs, if you really want to aim high and get those really top tier jobs that you're looking for, make it yourself, and take a really realistic perspective of your own work. Don't be afraid to look at your own work and say it's not there yet. But furthermore, don't just say it's not there yet. Say what's missing. Ask yourself, when I look at this guy who works, this guy works at Ubisoft, and I look at my artwork, and this is the type of artwork that I'm really passionate about. It's not just trying to emulate something that I'm completely unfamiliar with. I look at my work, I look at theirs, and I say, his characters are stronger. Okay, build my characters. Well, what's stronger about his characters? His anatomy. He's definitely got a good knowledge of anatomy. Okay, go and study anatomy. Take a course in anatomy. Okay? If you're looking at it, he's going, his compositions are more dynamic than mine. His lines are sharper than mine. His rendering of vehicles is better than mine. Then learn that. Save yourself the trouble of trying to learn 6,000 different techniques and types of art and beeline it straight for the type of stuff that you're looking for. And when you look at their art and look at your work, you can look at them and say, I can imagine these two guys working in the same studio. I see a similar caliber between the two of them, the two of us. Okay? But don't just look at the top honcho. Look at all of them. Do a search and look for the best and the worst that you can find for a studio, because they don't always only hire the top guy. The top guy is probably a senior artist or a director. He's directing all those other artists. So this guy's got about 10 years of experience over the rest of the team. So look at the whole team. Aim for that. But look at what everybody else is producing and look at your stuff next to it and really realistically look at it and say, does it hold up? You know, if I can hire this guy, would I hire this guy? Right? And say yes or no. If no, why? Answer that question. Build up your skills, specifically tailored to the type of job you're looking for, and apply. And I guarantee you that whole AAA thing won't even matter. All right? So thank you for joining me. Again, if you're interested in the LucidPIXUL mentorship, you can check the information in the link below. All the info is there. And I have a new testimonials section as well, because we've had quite a few students from all around the planet, and they wrote up some really cool testimonials, something you could really check out if you're interested in taking the course yourself to kind of get an idea of what other students have experienced as well. All right? So thank you for joining me, and take care.